Hello and welcome to Hoofball. In today's video we're going to be looking at our predictions for the end of the Premier League season. It has been an absolute crazy season this year and there's still so much up for grabs to play for. We've seen seasons in the past where it's all done by the start of April time. However, this is very different. There's sort of become a mini league at the bottom of the Premier League with teams fighting for their Premier League status. Survival is probably one of the most interesting stories this year in terms of who's going to stay up and who's going to go down. And there's obviously a race for the league title, which could go down to the wire. As always, to support our brand new football community here on YouTube, click subscribe down below. But who do I think is going to win the league? This is where it gets interesting. Who I think deserves to win the league is Arsenal. They've come from nowhere this season and they've played some brilliant football. They're probably one of the teams I enjoy watching the most because you've got such attacking players like Saka, Martinelli, and adding Gabriel Jesus into that lineup was a fantastic masterstroke. And what a signing he was this season. Yeah, he's had a lot of time out injured, but he's a top class striker and he deserves to play at the very top. I think Arsenal will do it as well. I think they'll have the longevity to carry on. All the pundits though are saying about Manchester City and Arsenal, that game, that one-off game, whoever wins the title. And I think it's not as clear-cut as that because Manchester City have a lot of other distractions in the Premier League this season. For example, tonight they're playing in the Champions League. Next week they're playing in the Champions League, and they've got a lot of other games to play than Arsenal have. Arsenal are out of Europe. They aren't playing on Thursday nights anymore. And that, for me, is a big factor, especially when it comes to fatigue against other clubs fighting for their lives. For example, if Manchester City have to play a few relegation candidates, they could come unstuck because of fatigue and also because the teams are fighting for their lives and they will want the points and they will scrap for points. It only takes a couple of draws for Arsenal to start to pull away. And for me, I do think Arsenal will win the league. Do I want Arsenal to win the league? Probably as well, because they have been a breath of fresh air this year. As a Leicester fan, I've got no ill will against Arsenal. Man City I find a little bit boring, but Erling Haaland, I said at the start of the season when Haaland came that I think he'd win the Golden Boot by an absolute mile, and I've been proven right. You know, if they don't win it, it will be a shock, purely because of how much he has scored this season. But I'm going to go with Arsenal to win the league, which then brings us on to the top four. So I would say first place, Arsenal. Second place, Manchester City. Third place for me, I'm going to go with Manchester United. And then fourth, I'm going Newcastle. The best team I've seen play in person this season, without a shadow of a doubt, is Newcastle. They've been absolutely fantastic. They play some great attacking football, and at times they're completely unplayable. They've got some brilliant attacking players. For example, even midfielders like Joel Linton are scoring regular goals. And it's a very great team to watch playing football. I don't necessarily agree with the ownership of the club, but what Eddie Howe's done there is brilliant. And he hasn't really assembled a squad of superstars either. You've got players like Willock playing in midfield. He hasn't necessarily created a squad who you would expect to become Champions League, in the Champions League places. However, I think he'll do it and I think he'll get there. I've got my Manchester United in third position, and that's because Erik ten Hag, for me, has had a very good season, a very good start to the season. They've had times where they've looked iffy, for example, getting turned over by Liverpool. But I think they'll have enough to solidify that third place, especially going in towards the end of the season. Rashford at the moment has picked up a bit of an injury and we don't know how long it's out for. But for me, I think Manchester United will get there. I do think it's an interesting transfer window for Manchester United, especially with the possibility of being bought over by a Qatari businessman or even Sir Jim Radcliffe's in the running for it. I do think it'll be interesting to see if they can get a takeover pushed through to basically secure the future of the club and invest. It's been a weird season for Manchester United, especially after what happened with Ronaldo as well. So for them to secure third place, I think it'd be a very good season for Manchester United. because then they can go on and push towards the start of next season. Manchester City obviously in second place. I don't think they'll win the title. I would have said they would at the start of the season, but, I think Arsenal have been a different class this season. Which leads me on to the battle to stay in the Premier League. As a Leicester fan, I've got a vested interest in this because we've been shocking all season, but I do think we will get out of it. I do think at some point things are going to turn, especially with Dean Smith coming in, with Craig Shakespeare and John Terry. I think there'll be an air of positivity into the club. And also we have a lot of teams to play around us. For example, if we get 3 points over Everton, that puts us 3 points over Everton, which is very significant. Playing teams like Leeds as well, I think we might just stay up. For me, the bottom three to go down, 20th place is Southampton, who I think Saints fans, they've been a very good club, Southampton have in the Premier League, but I think it's a long time coming now in terms of their Premier League survival. I just don't think they've got enough. And this season they had a real overhaul, I think, of players. I think they brought quite a few new players in. When I saw Southampton play at the start of the season, I didn't recognise half the players that were in the team, if I'm honest. And I think they've struggled to sort of bed them in. I think getting rid of Hasenhüttl, may have been the nail in the coffin, because although they weren't playing great football, he is a man who can survive, and he's done it before. Which means in 19th place, I'm also going to go with Nottingham Forest. As a Leicester fan, I should hate Nottingham Forest, but I don't. A lot of my friends from school were Nottingham Forest fans, and we had a great time, a bit of banter, having a bit of a laugh. And I've got a soft spot for Forest. I've been there plenty of times, and we've never won at the City Ground. And it's a great place to go and watch a football game. There's a roar there, and when the ball goes forward, the whole of the Trent End rises. It's a great place, and Nottingham Forest deserve Premier League football. They're a great club, and it's been brilliant to have them in the Premier League this season. Ultimately, though, I think their downfall is signing that many players. They had to do it. I think they've got 30 players they've signed now on a permanent or so on this season, and they had to do it because a lot of the players that got them up were on loan. But I think the downfall there is possible loyalty to Steve Cooper. I think if this is where there's an issue when it comes to football managers, because there should be a degree of loyalty that you have to your manager that gets you promoted. For example, Steve Cooper. He's done brilliant at Nottingham Forest. He took them from the bottom of the Championship into the playoffs and they got up. But for me, he isn't a Premier League manager. And you are coming into a club where you've signed all these new players. You need a big, experienced head to manage that at the top of your club. And I think, although it's a great decision to keep him, I think the loyalty that they've shown may come back to bite them, if I'm honest. He's a great manager, but I do think that you should have had someone else there to keep the club up, especially around Christmas time. Which leaves the last spot, 18th. Who's going to go down? For me, either Leicester, Everton or Leeds, but I'm going to go with Everton. Sean Dyche coming into the club was a big win for me. He's got players like Tarkowski playing out their skin. First game he comes in, they win 1-0 against unexpected opposition. But for me, the problem with Everton over the years has been the investment, and also they've been investing in the wrong areas and things have gone very stale at Everton. Sean Dyche, yeah, he's been great at keeping teams up, but for me, it's a toss-up really between the teams at the bottom, and it all depends on who does best against the other teams. The head-to-heads will make a big difference. But I can see Everton dropping, which will be an absolute nightmare for the fans and also the Premier League, because they're a huge club. And to see a team like Everton, who are a real traditional football club, and they deserve to be in the Premier League, and they deserve better ultimately than fans do. They deserve a real progressive quality manager, someone like Graham Potter to come in and run the club, someone forward thinking. They don't deserve managers like Benitez. Even Dyche to an extent, Everton fans will be saying, yeah, he can keep us up, but he's not what the fans want. The fans want attacking football. Like when David Moyes was there with players like Tim Cahill, even Stephen Pienaar on the wing. You know, these are great players, but I think Everton's time in the Premier League may just come to an end. So there's my predictions for who's going to win the league, who's going to get the top 4 in the Champions League places, and who ultimately is going to get relegated from the Premier League. Who do you think, though? What do you think? How do you think the end of the season is going to play out? As always, to support Hoofball, please comment down below. And as always, have a great day.